Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sandhivani Paschati Dasatani Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, we are continuing our class on self-envy and low self-esteem. And I'm going to try to turn a bit into the light. We only have one light here, so it's not so dramatic. Dark on one and light on the other. And just recently, a devotee had written me about how to deal with expectation, and expectations is a manifestation. Problematic expectation is a manifestation of low self-esteem, because we tend to expect more from people because we require that to be quote-unquote normal. So I think it's really a good topic to talk about, because it also relates to Hare Krishna. It also relates to just the whole concept of hankering and lamenting. So let's begin with this verse from Bhagavad Gita: Brahmabhuta prasanatma nasochati nakangshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. So that verse, Brahmabhuta prasanatma, one who's self-realized is prasanatma, he's happy. Why? Nasochati nakangshati. It's not hankering, it's not lamenting. So Prabhupada said, if you hanker and you don't get it, you lament, or you hanker and you get it, and you lose it, you lament, or you could say a third option is you hanker, you get it, and it doesn't make you happy, you lament. So the idea is that that's the condition of material consciousness or material life. We always want something we don't have. It doesn't make us happy, or we lose it, or we don't get it. And so therefore the consequence of hankering is lamentation. Very simple principle, duality. So Krishna is saying someone who's self-realized doesn't hanker or lament, because prasanatma, they're satisfied. You can look at it the other way and say, if you want to become self-realized, don't hanker and lament. So it works both ways. When Krishna is describing the conditions of a self-realized person, then he's also describing what you have to do to become self-realized. So they work together. So if you're self-realized, you don't hanker and lament. And if you want to become self-realized, practice not hankering and lamenting. So I once was attending a workshop. It was a festival, and one devotee was giving a workshop on this topic, and she said that we shouldn't expect anything from anybody. And she was saying we shouldn't expect things from our children, because that isn't good for them, and it's not good for us. So a lot of devotees were confused, and they were saying, well, if you expect good, isn't it better if you expect good, then you'll get good? And if you don't expect good, you won't get good? So they were kind of confused, and she was saying, no, you shouldn't have expectations materially. I didn't entirely agree, because you're also, you sometimes, if you don't have expectations, like the devotees were saying, that you don't really, wow, this camera is really going crazy. Maybe because the lighting isn't good. I'm going to move more into the light. It's trying to figure out what to do. Okay, maybe if we do this, we won't have to figure out so much what to do. See if that's better. So, I didn't entirely agree. It seemed almost a bit impersonal. So, I understood her point. On the spiritual level, you shouldn't hanker. But then hankering or expectation is also what motivates us to be better or do better. So, if we look at our philosophy, you'll find that expectation is a part of bhakti. That faith, for example, is really an expectation of something that you will achieve or realize in the future that is not tangible yet. Like sometimes a devotee will pray or will show that they're expecting Krishna's mercy. And why are they expecting it? Because Krishna promises. So that expectation would be a faith in the promise of Krishna. I'm always expecting your mercy. If I give my life to you, I expect you will guide me. I expect that you will help me. And expectation is it's a stage beyond asking Krishna for help, but it's an acknowledgement of Krishna's promise. So that's an aspect of surrender, expecting Krishna's mercy. Right? So that kind of expectation, certainly, that's Krishna conscious, and certainly we wouldn't say that's the wrong expectation. And Hana, where are you? I'm in Laguna Beach right now. Are you around here? So so then the question becomes, well, what should we expect, and when is expectation healthy, and when is not expectation healthy? Well, anything that Krishna says he will do for his devotee, we should expect that. Oh, you're in Mayapur, Haribol. Anything Krishna says he should do for his devotee, we should expect that. That would be a manifestation of faith, and it would be wrong not to expect it. And sometimes devotees will pray for Krishna to do something which Krishna has already said that he will do. So my personal realization is, rather than pray, expect it, be waiting for it. Of course we can always pray, but to expect it, in my estimation, is a higher form of faith. I know if I do this, you will protect me. Like when Prabhupada came, he said, I don't know, not really sure how to communicate to all these people, but I know your mercy can do anything, so you can make it happen. So he was, coming expecting a miracle, in a sense, that Krishna would perform some miracle that he couldn't do on his own, because he said, well, you're the supreme mystic, you can do anything. So he was praying, of course, but within that prayer there was also this sense of expectation that, because a prayer without expectation it lacks faith. Of course, you might say Krishna may not answer all your prayers, but again, my point is, if Krishna has already promised something, then we should have faith that he'll give it. It's just a question of when, and it's a question if we're qualified. So expecting Krishna's mercy, expecting his protection, expecting his guidance, that's all part of bhakti, and that expectation should be there, and that's not wrong, and that's not what Krishna is referring to as don't hanker. It's definitely not what he's referring to. In fact, these things, I believe, if we're properly situated in Krishna consciousness, then naturally we would expect these things. Now, then you might say, well, what about detachment? How can you have expectation and detachment? The detachment is when and how Krishna gives it, we accept it. So I expect your mercy, I'm serving, I'm chanting, expecting your mercy, expecting that I will become Krishna conscious by this process. And when and how you give it, that That's my detachment. I can't force you to do it at any time, but I'm always waiting. Like the devotee, there's one prayer. Forget exactly the prayer, but the devotee's, is expressing that confidence that I'm always expecting your mercy. There's an example, the chikora bird. Chikora is a thunderbird. What we call thunderbird is a chikora bird. And so the chikora bird only takes water from clouds. That's the only place it'll get water. Even if there's water on the ground, it'll look up to the clouds for rain. And so that example is given that devotee is always looking to Krishna, expecting mercy, and only looking to Krishna for mercy. So he's always expecting it because he's engaged in Krishna service. There's another verse, Aham Trishami Dharanta Parotamo Mukundangri. And the devotee is saying, now that I've taken to Krishna consciousness, I will cross over the material energy. Why do I know that? Why do I feel that way? Because everyone who takes to devotional service crosses over material energy. So I have that expectation that I'm also doing it. Others did it. I followed the same path as others, then I'll get the same result. So that only makes sense that we should expect that. I would say there's something wrong if we don't expect it. I would say that would be a lack of faith. The devotee is always expecting Krishna's protection, always expecting his mercy, always expecting his guidance. Dadami buddhi yogam tam, Krishna says, I'll give you guidance, so then shouldn't we expect it? And if it's not coming, perhaps we're not ready yet, or maybe we're lacking in some way to qualify ourselves for that, or we have the wrong mentality, or it is coming, or it has come and you don't recognize it, and more is coming, and you wanted more, you got less. But faith is that it's coming. And so proper expectation is what we want, and to not expect something that Krishna promises, I would say, is a lack of faith. So expectation is part of the practice of devotional service. And as you know, if you want to achieve anything, you have to have some confidence that it's possible. You have to have some expectation, enthusiasm, inspiration. So certainly we should expect someday to be Krishna conscious through this process. And, if we don't expect, you can see that in devotees who don't expect it, they're not very, I don't want to say serious, but not very intentional, or you could say serious about their devotional service, because they're lacking some faith that Krishna is actually going to provide what they need. In 9th chapter, Krishna says, Ananyas chintayantamam ye jana paryupasate tesham nitya biyuktanam yogakshemam yaham yaham. You do bhakti, you always think of me, I'll provide what you need. Whatever you have, I'll keep it for you. Whatever you don't have, I'll provide it. And so I expect that now I can give myself, so I expect that Krishna will do that. Okay, now the problem is expecting things. So the problem is not expectation. The problem is expecting things which we shouldn't expect. Expecting things which are not indications of our bhakti, not indications of our faith in Krishna, but expecting things which are indications of our weakness. So I've just described the spiritual expectations, how spiritual expectations are reflections of our faith. I expect Krishna's mercy, kindness, guidance. I expect His help. These are all things He promises, so to not expect them would actually be wrong. To not expect them would be a lack of faith. So, then any expectation that we would have for Krishna or Guru to provide something or give us something that they don't promise to provide would be unhealthy. So, if Krishna doesn't say, like sometimes devotees are in situations and they don't understand why, and they think Krishna's not merciful, but then I would say, did Krishna promise anywhere that He would do this for you? And if there's no promise that Krishna would do it, and you have an expectation that he would, then you're putting Krishna in a position to fulfill an expectation he's not committed to fulfill. Like, for example, materially, that sometimes things don't work out materially, and people who aren't very spiritually evolved will then say, well, where's Krishna's mercy? But that's not what Krishna promises. In fact, Krishna promises that if you don't use your material facilities well, and they become an impediment, he might even take them away. So if you expect that if you're misusing something, then he'll take it away. Actually, that happened to me yesterday. You want to hear a funny story? Well, I have an iPad, and an iPad has GarageBand, and GarageBand has this facility where you can create music from loops. So my idea was we create some music and we chant some shlokas. You know, we have nice music, and if the music's nice, people will listen to it longer than if it's just a tambour and me chanting. But if there's a nice melody, and then I chant shlokas and read translation, if it's a nice melody, you want to listen to it longer, and the longer you listen to it, the more easily you're going to memorize the shlokas. The idea was to memorize the shlokas. So I was working out some melodies, and I was learning the program, and I did that on my flight back from Dallas a few weeks ago to Alachua. Just it's like I never normally have time, and I spent a little too much time doing it, you know. And then I did that on my flight from Miami to Dallas, and then I was going Dallas to California, and I got a little too absorbed in most of the flight. I was, you know, writing songs and music, and guess what happened? I left my iPad mystically. I don't know how this happened. This was like total illusory energy, or Krishna's Yoga Maya. I left it on the plane. And then I realized that I left it on the plane about 5 minutes before I had to board for my next flight, and we tried to locate it and we couldn't. And of course, maybe they found it and we can get it back. But then I was thinking, Krishna said, okay, you're spending. I was also reading on it, Bhagavatam, but I was spending more time with the music, and I thought Krishna was saying, you are wasting your time with this. I'm going to take it away. So maybe he's going to take it away permanently, or maybe he's going to take it away until, you know, I'm ready to go to China in a few weeks, or who knows. So when that happened, there's no reason I left it on the plane. It's like, I was reading from it when the plane landed. And how do you not pack something you're reading from? It was like mystical. And then the plane landed, and I had these messages, and I got distracted, and people rushing, come on, hurry up. And so, yeah, so we could sometimes expect that Krishna might take something away from us if it's getting in the way. And if that happens, okay, that expectation is okay. But to expect something, Krishna to do something that he doesn't promise that he's going to do, then that could fall under the category of nasochiti nakamsha, hankering. So in the same way, we often expect things from people that they have not promised to give, or they cannot give. And as this is a class on low self-esteem, we want to look at why people with low self-esteem tend to have higher expectations of people than others. So I was thinking of an example this morning. Putting these ideas in my head last night before I went to sleep, that I have to talk about these things. Then I woke up this morning with an idea. And here it is. Let's say you have friends who have very good jobs and they make a lot of money, a lot more money than they need. And maybe 6 months ago you lost your job and now you're struggling. And all 3 or 4 or 5 of you are going shopping, and you're the only one that doesn't have a job, and everyone else has 6-figure incomes. They're making way more than they're spending. So you're all going shopping, and in the back of your mind you're thinking, one of them should just pay for me because I'm not working and they're all working and they have more money than they need. And then you go shopping and no one volunteers to pay for your clothes or whatever it is you're buying. and now you're upset because you were expecting that, right? Okay. You were expecting that because you don't have the income they have. You're lacking in some way, and so you were thinking those who are not lacking should make up for you for what you're lacking, right? So what's that analogy relate to? Well, those who lack self-esteem, they're poor emotionally, they're poor in various ways. Well, they lack self-acceptance, they lack self-love, they may think they're less than they actually are. And because of that, they require more validation from others. Validation that others don't know they're supposed to give or others wouldn't naturally give. So in this example, you're shopping. Do the others know they're supposed to buy something for you? Is that normal? No, it's not normal. I mean, if it's your birthday or something, or if it's something, let's say, that's vital to your life and you can't afford it, probably then they might say, let's buy this for you, especially if you express that it's vital and you can't afford it. But in normal circumstances, you're just shopping, you're buying some clothes. And they might think, well, if you're not working, why are you buying clothes? So, we're supposed to support you so you can buy clothes when you should just be buying food. So that would be normal for them to think that way. It wouldn't be abnormal if they didn't buy clothes for you when you don't have a job. But because you're lacking, you're expecting, well, they have, and I'm lacking, so they should buy. So I'm lacking in self-appreciation, I'm lacking in self-confidence, I'm lacking in sense of self-worth, I'm lacking in sense of self-love. So now I'm expecting all these people around me to give it to me. Why? Because I'm hungry for it, because I need it, and they should give it to me because that would make me complete and whole. And you understand the principle that we're hungry for something that we shouldn't be hungry for, or we're hungry for something that we should be able to give to ourselves. And when we're not able to give it to ourselves, then we start hoping, expecting that others will give it to us. Now, the problem is that if we're expecting others to give us something that in the ordinary course wouldn't be what I consider normal expectation, then we run into a problem, because then when we don't get it, we become upset. I don't know if you can relate to this, but try to think of a situation in which you're expecting something from somebody and there was no agreement between you and them, and it wasn't necessarily or entirely normal that they would think that I should give you these things. So, can you think of some examples? Well, I think what we can do is let's talk about where expectations would be considered normal and useful. All right? If you and I make an arrangement that I'm going to come somewhere and meet you at some time, and it's kind of a big thing, and you had to make a lot of arrangements to facilitate me, and a lot of arrangements just to make the time to be there, and then I don't show up and I don't call you, then if you're let down, that would be normal. It would be normal to expect that I would be there at a certain time, because that's an agreement. So that's what I call normal expectations, right? If you're married, you would expect your husband or wife not to cheat on you. That's a normal expectation. To be upset that they're cheating on you, that's pretty normal. Because these are agreements we have, right? If you have a business and somebody buys something, you expect they're not going to steal it, but they're going to pay for it. And if they steal it, yeah, you'll probably be upset. At least you'll do something. So, to say that, we shouldn't have any expectations, and how could you function? How could we function if we didn't have any expectations? So, this is what I call normal expectations, or contractual expectations. There's an expectation between us, but we've verbalized it, or it's socially understood. You go into a store, there are products, you pay for them, it's understood. There's a crowd and you have to get out the door. It's understood you don't push someone or knock someone over. So if somebody knocks you over, yeah, you wouldn't expect that. These are social agreements, unwritten agreements, but they're normal. And there are other agreements which we verbalize. I'll be there at this time. I will marry you. That means I won't marry anybody else. I have a contract. It's a business. I'm going to do certain work. We've signed the contract. We've shaken hands. So those are normal agreements. So one of the things that I heard about expectations, which I really liked, is when someone would say, I was let down because so-and-so didn't do something, then we ask them, did you have an agreement? Did you have a contract, so to speak? Did you have an agreement? Did they know they were supposed to do that? And in most cases the answer is no. They didn't know. Of course, you might say sometimes, of course they should have known, but they did something very bad to me. They should have known. Yeah, that's true. But normally when we're let down, we have a lot of expectations that are far beyond what I think we could normally expect from people in everyday situations. And those expectations, if they weren't verbalized, if they weren't communicated, then what right do we have to expect something from someone who wouldn't, in ordinary course of affairs, act in a particular way unless we communicate it? And so if it's not communicated, then having that expectation will then lead us to become disappointed or even resentful. Does that make sense? So the whole point of this discussion is that there are so many ramifications of low self-esteem, and this is a huge ramification of low self-esteem. It's like the world owes me something. Often people think the world owes them something when it doesn't. It's just they failed, and they need to do something to succeed. We see this in, I was in South Africa, and the devotees told me that because for so many years the blacks were enslaved by the whites in apartheid, and practically, literally enslaved. With the new government makes facilities for black people, gives them opportunities for working, better educational facility, better living facility, things they didn't have under apartheid. But devotees were telling me that a lot of the black African population has become lazy because they feel that after all those years of abuse, that they deserve handouts, that deserve to be taken care of. And if they're not taken care of sufficiently, they they don't do anything themselves. So they're allowing themselves to become degraded with an expectation that the government should take care of them. And so it's an expectation that the government is not going to meet. And so they feel entitled to things they're not getting. And so they're not, many of them who feel that way aren't doing well, because they're not doing anything to better their position. So that would be an example of an expectation that can't be met, that people are still expecting to be met. And then it becomes a problem, where actually they should meet that expectation themselves. It's quite simple to understand, isn't it? So how do we relate that to a psychological situation? Well, let's say I lack self-worth. I think I'm not as capable as others, right? And so that is, it's kind of a subtle but constant subtle awareness that I just, it's a constant realization, it's a constant perception that I feel lower than others. I don't feel as qualified or capable as others, right? And so, in that situation, my need to be appreciated, or my need to be honored, my need to be encouraged, is probably going to be stronger, or perhaps much stronger, than people who don't have those same needs, who don't feel that way. And so, because of that need, an expectation comes. You are my friend, you are my brother, you are my father, mother, you are my guru, you are my disciple, you are my this, you are my that. I expect you to give me that honor, that appreciation, that recognition that I lack in myself, because I don't appreciate myself, I don't recognize myself, I don't really like myself. So I need someone to like me, I need someone to appreciate me, I need someone to honor me so that I can feel whole, I can feel complete, I can feel grounded, normal, balanced. And you're a close friend or a close relative, so naturally I expect you are the one. And to some degree, that's true. But what I've observed is the problem is when those expectations are beyond what we should expect in normal interactions. Like in other words, Prabhupada once said that every disciple has to fly their own airplane. That the spiritual master just can't take you by the hand per se, and you do nothing, and you go back to Godhead. And so you have to do some of the work. Obviously he's doing the work, but you have to follow him. It can't just be all him. So in the same sense, naturally there's affection from father to son and daughter, guru to son and daughter, friends, and so on. But if we're expecting the kind of love and friendship, if we're expecting a degree of love and friendship that is going to make up for what's lacking in us, then that's when those expectations get frustrated. That's when we become critical of other people, and that's when we become frustrated. So there's a fine line between what would be a normal expectation, and even with normal expectations, sometimes we don't even get those. Sometimes people can't deliver even what we would consider normal expectations. And Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, it's interesting. This word Prasanatma means satisfied. Prasanna Atma. And the more we're satisfied within our spiritual lives, the more we're satisfied psychologically, materially, or we could say accepting of who we are, then the less we'll have expectations for people and situations around us. And the more we'll be nourished from our own spiritual practice, from our own study, from our own chanting, and also just from our own life in general, that we can appreciate ourselves, or we can accept ourselves, who we are as we are, and not always be feeling, well, there's something wrong with me, and I need other people to always remind me there isn't something wrong with me, because if they don't, then I'm going to feel something's wrong with me, and so now I'm dependent on other people to bring me up to a normal level, and that's not really the job of other people. Now, I once read an interesting phenomenon. Because low self-esteem is quite common, people who have it, they hanker for relationships because they feel that they really need another person to make them whole, because they're not making themselves whole. So naturally they feel they need someone else to make them whole. And so the problem lies when you bring two people together who are both depending on one another to make them whole. And it's a complete disaster. It's already a disaster if you have one person in a relationship like that, but if you have two people. Because if you have one person, the person will say things like, you don't love me. Yes, I do. No, you don't. If you did, you would do that. Well, no, I love you, but that's not how I show it. Well, if you loved me, you would show it that. And so they're hankering for love so much that they need you to show it, like in so many ways that are not really natural for you, or ways in which you would feel or think are not necessary. It's not, if I don't do this, I don't love you. But the person who lacks love, or lacks self-respect, they get very upset with people who don't show to them what they need as a manifestation of respect, and how they would define, or how they would define their needs for it. So that makes it really hard on the other person, because in the normal course of life, one wouldn't. It's like you always need money, and I'm always giving you money. No matter how much I give, you want more, and it's like, you have enough. No, I don't have enough. Give me more. No, I'm spending it all. No, make your own money. No, you have to give me money. No, make your own money. No, I'll make my own, but you have to give me. I don't have enough. So something like that. It's like this. There's such a lack of self-love that it's like an endless pit, and then that person always needs it filled up. And in some cases, it can never be filled up, no matter what we do. But even if we can make some attempt to fill it up, it's not healthy, because that person should fill it up. So that's one situation, and that's why we often find in marriages are very difficult, because there's someone that needs so much love and attention and affection, and needs it in particular ways, and they're always complaining about their spouse, and the spouse can't figure out why you're complaining about me. I'm doing so many things, but the things that they need to fill up that empty hole of affection and honor, they're not getting. And it's according to their conception what they need. And so then the other person's frustrated. Why are you always upset? Why are you always criticizing me? And so a lot of times when they're criticizing the other person, it's actually a call for love. They don't feel loved, and so they're getting upset with the other person. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. Maybe you've seen that. It's sometimes when a person is blaming, it's actually a call for love. Sometimes when a person is criticizing you, if you're very close, it's a call for love. That they want something from you and you're not giving it. But it makes it difficult on you, especially if what they want is abnormal. Especially if what they want is not something that in the ordinary course of your daily interaction you would naturally give. Right? Now here's the problem. You have one person with low self-esteem who needs a lot of love and a lot of encouragement, and they're like a balloon, and you blow them up and they got the hole, and then if you don't keep blowing them up, they just that's hard. It's hard to work with people like that, because people like that, they'll always tend to be critical, because they're never getting enough from the other person. Maybe you've seen this. They're just, nobody can give them enough. I don't know if you know anybody like that, but if you know anybody that's always criticizing, it's very likely they have low self-esteem, and they're just always expecting other people to give them things or build them up, or they think the world owes them so many things. People owe them affection and honor, and when they don't get it, they become very critical. It's one of the symptoms of low self-esteem, that you're looking at people and you're expecting people should be giving you more affection, more attention, because you're suffering. But your suffering is caused by yourself. You haven't dealt with whatever is causing your low self-esteem. So then, if you feel unloved, then when people don't show you love, then you get upset because you feel, or show you love according to your standard, then you feel they don't love you, they're neglecting you, and when this comes to the spiritual level, like with your spiritual master, he doesn't care about me, he doesn't like me, he hasn't written me in a month, he didn't smile when he saw me, so many things, and that could be very devastating to your spiritual life. You know what I mean? It could, you could be making offenses. So, and as I said earlier, there was no agreement of expectation. Like maybe when you got married, or when you became a disciple, or you got this particular job, or you got this service, you had all these expectations in your mind of what it meant and what you were going to get. But those were not expectations that the other person had. It is not how that person saw his relation to you. Like for example, nowadays many gurus have too many disciples to be able to interact personally with them. So if they aspire to be initiated by that disciple, they're told, please understand, you may never have any personal interaction, you may never talk to him, you may never even write him or Skype or anything. Are you okay with that? Because obviously, if you have expectations to have this very personal relationship with your guru, and you don't, you could become offensive, at least upset. It's not good to be upset with your guru. And so I think a lot of people had expectations for their guru that their guru couldn't deliver, because he never saw himself as delivering those things. But you, as a disciple, saw it. Or you, as a husband, potential husband or wife, had certain expectations which your husband or wife didn't see as their duty to fulfill. And that creates a huge problem. And I'm sure you've all been through this situation, either on the giving or the receiving end of it. And so that's why we say, for example, premarital counseling, get your expectations out, and so then you could see, are these realistic expectations? I expect that you will earn $1 million a year and we'll have 3 vacation houses. And he's like, no, I'm just a computer programmer for a small company, and 1 house maximum, if even that. So, so that's how he's thinking, and she's thinking something else, and unless it's communicated, there will be problems. Yes? Years ago, we had a course, it was a leadership course. It was a leadership for gurus, and one of the initiating gurus at the time said that it's very important that disciples have the right expectations when they take initiation. He said, because a lot of the problems that he's faced were that the disciples had expectations which were not really part of the guru-disciple relationship, or not part of that guru's portfolio, so to speak, with his responsibilities and his nature and the number of disciples he has. He could not give certain things to disciples that they expected, and their expectations were not necessarily based on anything real. It was just based on what they needed or what they thought he was supposed to do. So we have this problem when we expect things from people which is not communicated. I want to be your husband, I want to be your wife, I want to be your disciple, I want to be your employee. These are my expectations, and then the husband, wife, guru, employer can say, yes, I will give you that, or no, that is not what this relationship is about. You cannot expect me to give you this and that. You can expect this and that, but not this and that. Now, here's where the huge problem happens. You take 2 people in a relationship, whether it's marriage or any kind of relationship, and they both lack low self-esteem, and they both have high expectations, and they both have high needs because of those, because of the because of low self-esteem, they have high needs. And so now they're both entering a marriage thinking the other person is going to make them whole, but they both need it from the other person. And so what happens? You could imagine what happens. they end up criticizing one another. They're both criticizing one another because they both lack self-esteem, and they can't give it to the other person because they need it from the other person. So neither of them is giving it, and therefore they're both feeling a lack of love and honor, and so they end up criticizing the other person because they're not getting what they expected or what they need, and so they're getting the exact opposite. So they're both, you understand? So I need you to give me love, but you need me to give you love. But I'm not whole, you're not whole. I'm lacking love, you're lacking love. So I'm not really good at giving it because I need it, but you're not good at giving it because you need it. And I criticize you because you're not giving it to me, and you're criticizing me because I'm not giving it to you. And we end up finding fault about the same thing. I'm faulting you for the exact same thing that you're faulting me, because we both want the same thing and we're both incapable of giving it. Do you understand what I'm saying? You understand what a mess that is? Yeah. So, what I've observed is that anyone who wants to have a healthy relationship needs to have a healthy level of self-esteem. Otherwise, they, number one, cannot provide for the other person the love and affection and the encouragement and the honor and respect the other person needs, because they so much want to get it and need it, and they're lacking, and it's hard to give what you lack. And number two, they'll always be expecting from their partner, their spouse, their guru, their employer, employee, disciple, whatever the relationship is, they'll always be expecting much more than that person can give, and they'll always be frustrated because they're not getting what they expected. They'll always feel a lack. Yes? You understand? So it's like, imagine it's like two people who are both hungry come together, and neither of them have any money, and neither of them have any food. But each one was thinking the other person is going to feed them. I thought you were going to feed me. No, I thought you were going to feed me. Well, I don't have anything to feed you. Well, neither do I. Well, you're the man, so you should feed me. No, well, you're the woman, so you should be cooking. Well, I thought you were going to do this. You're the disciple. Well, I thought you were going to do this. You're the guru. Well, I thought you were going to do this. You're the friend. Well, no, but you're my friend, so you should do it. You understand? So you have two hungry people, both with no food and no money, expecting that the other person had the food and money and was going to cook for them. But wouldn't it be better if both of them got it together, got some money, went to the store and got some food, and maybe you could cook together? Wouldn't that be a happier situation? So you see, the problem is that when you want to develop healthy relationships, if you are extremely needy, then you'll always need other people to fulfill you. And then you'll be critical of other people who aren't fulfilling you. Like, you come over to my house, right? So you come over where we plan to do something. And then when you come over, you say, "Where's prasadam?" And I say, "We don't have any prasadam." I say, "Well, you invited me over, you should have prasadam." That was your expectation or your culture. I said, "No, you were coming over to work on this project. You weren't coming over to eat. If you're coming over to eat, you should have told me. I would have made something." No, we should understand when I come over, I'm a guest, you should always feed me. So you see how that works. You're coming in with an idea that the other person was not at all prepared to deal with. And there was no communication previously. And why are you coming in with that idea? Because you're hungry. If you weren't hungry, you wouldn't come over stampeding and flaming and jumping up and down. Why aren't you feeding me? You would, right? You understand? So there's so many of us are walking around starved for love, starved for affection, starved for appreciation, starved for honor, and we're looking at it, we're looking to get it from everywhere, from everybody and anyone, except get it from ourselves. And so therefore we're in a very vulnerable position, because now we become dependent on other people to give us the food that we should be collecting and cooking and then eating ourselves. And if I'm depending on other people to feed me, what if they don't feed me? Then I starve. And many people are starving from lack of self-love, lack of affection, lack of appreciation, and so forth. Now, we've talked a little bit about why this happens, and when I discuss this with devotees and make them aware, like a lot of devotees, because they're listening to these talks, are becoming aware that they have this problem, that they lack self-esteem, and just by hearing these discussions. And so then they start to reflect on their lives, and then they go back and they say, yeah, I can see, that I was put down when I was young by this person or that person. I was compared to other people, or my parents were not emotionally present, or whatever it is. So I feel some kind of lack. They put two and two together. And so, if you don't eat enough, by tonight you're going to be hungry. So if you weren't fed enough respect and, natural affection, normal affection that you would get, if you're not fed enough, then by the end of the day, you're going to be really hungry. Yes? So that's what's happening for many people, that they were kind of smashed down as they put down and said, no, you can't eat. No, you're not good enough to eat. I'm not feeding you. So by the evening of your life, you're hungry. So you're not given the appreciation and affection that a normal person needs to thrive, to be able to function well. And then now you're starving for it. And because you're starving for it, you're looking for it everywhere and anywhere from everybody except yourself. And that's the problem. And now your expectations are connected with that starvation. Now, I'm expecting, I'm hungry, so I'm expecting everyone should know I'm hungry and feed me. Right? How is everybody supposed to know that I'm hungry and needy and starving? And I would imagine, I don't want to guarantee, I feel like I could guarantee this, but I would imagine that if you wanted to get married and you told someone, I'm starving, needy, hungry, for lack of affection, appreciation, respect, honor, etc., I have none of that in myself, and I entirely rely on you to give me that, then I would imagine probably no one would want to marry you, because they would feel burdened and they would feel like you're in an unhealthy state. So if we're walking around hungry, hunger is good. Too much hunger is not good. Everybody needs affection. Everybody needs to be respected. But when we're walking around depending on others to give it, to live a normal life, we're going to put ourselves in a precarious position. And so if you ever find yourself or find someone extremely critical, it's always this person that, probably there's a self-esteem issue there, that they're expecting much more from that person than they can give. And I think, unfortunately, we'll find that devotees leave Krishna consciousness because of expecting certain things from their leaders or their gurus that their leaders and gurus cannot give, or not supposed to give. Sometimes they're supposed to give it, but they can't give it. Circumstantially, it's not their nature, or it's just logistically, physically, they can't do it. And if we have high needs for it and high expectations for it, then we become extremely disappointed. And so it just doesn't work. It's really bad. It's early in the morning, my brain. I just flew in yesterday. I'm not functional yet. Sounds like I'm not functional, right? I mean, it's making sense. It's just taking me more words to put it together. So, yeah, I think that's clear. So now you see the difference between expectations which would be normal in normal relationships and expectations which are founded in your own lacking. And you see the difference. That was the point of today's discussion, you know. I'm a normal person. I don't depend on other people to fill me up with love and affection. But naturally, you know, genuine relationships, kindness, you expect that. That's normal. Trustworthiness, you expect that. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's not connected to your own lacking. It's just connected to more of normal functionality. Like let's say you have a friend or a coworker or someone, you can't rely on them. You stop expecting that they'll ever be reliable. But your life doesn't depend on them being reliable. But if you're in a state where you're depending on someone being reliable because of your own weakness, that's a problem. I mean, obviously, we depend on people being reliable. And it can be a problem in any case. But I'm specifically speaking here about when it's your problem, that because of your lacking, because of your lack of self-love or self-esteem or self-confidence, you are depending on other people to be a certain way, and then you get upset when they're not, but it's due to your own hunger. That's the problem. So, let me see what time it is. Wow, we have almost gone an hour. So, would you like to ask any questions? I think I've said everything I want to say, and I think I've hit on a problem that a devotee couple is having right now. I've been corresponding with the devotee couple, and I wasn't exactly sure why they were having their problem, because they're actually very compatible, or it is said in their astrology they're exactly alike. And now I realize what the problem is. They are exactly alike, and they're both needing lots of affection. And neither of them is getting it from the other person because they both need it. They're having a really hard time giving it because they both need it, and they're both finding fault with one another, and they're finding fault identically. It's like amazing. So that was just some understanding I came to yesterday, and which I described in this class, when you have these two people that are both overly needy for love and affection and honor and respect, and they're entering, two hungry people. One of them's got to feed the other person. Then when the other person's fed, they can feed you. But if both people are complaining that you're not feeding me, then nothing happens. So that's what happens in a lot of relationships. So okay, what's the solution? Well, Krishna consciousness is the solution for everything. But sometimes when the problem is rooted very deeply psychologically, we have to work on it on a more subconscious level. So the problem is that I think there's something wrong with me, that I think I'm less than I am. I think I'm not lovable, and I need people to tell me I'm lovable. I think I'm not respectable. I need people to tell me I'm respectable. I think I'm not smart. I need people to tell me I'm smart. I'm not capable. I think I'm not capable. I need people to tell me I'm capable. All of this. That's a conditioning. It's a programming. It's a worldview. I'm not good enough. That's just how I see the world. Everyone's better. I'm not good enough. So that has to be reprogrammed. Now, if we try to reprogram from the spiritual level, the spiritual level means, like Prahlad Maharaj said, he said something interesting. And unfortunately, a lot of devotees who have low self-esteem issues are not able to come to this level. And I think if they could come to this level, it may solve a lot of their problems. Although, I have seen devotees come to Prahlad Maharaj's level, which he says, I'm hearing and chanting about you, I'm absorbed in it, and therefore, I'm happy. I have no problems. The only problem is that everyone else is not absorbed in hearing and chanting, and that's putting me in anxiety. But personally, he said, Magna Chitta, my consciousness is absorbed in hearing and chanting, and I'm just like ecstatic. I'm blissful. So, you could say ultimately the solution for low self-esteem issues is to become ecstatic, and ecstatically absorbed in chanting and hearing. That's true. That is the solution. So that you become Brahma Bhuta Prasannatman, and you become satisfied. Now I'm satisfied, I'm full, I don't want anything else, like Dhruva Maharaj. So, Lord Vishnu appeared, said, I'm here to fulfill your desire. And he said, no. Seeing you is enough. I mean, like, I don't want anything else. Nothing, like, my desire was like glass. You are a jewel. Not even glass, broken glass. My desire was useless. Now I see you, I want nothing. No desire. So that's the spiritual solution, that I'm so fulfilled in my Krishna consciousness. I don't need you to tell me I'm great. I don't need you to show me love and affection. I'm feeling it so much from Guru and Krishna. I'm feeling so much reciprocation from Krishna. I'm feeling so much reciprocation from the holy name. I feel so much reciprocation from the Bhagavatam. I feel so much reciprocation from associating with devotees. I feel so much reciprocation from the holy Dham. I feel so much reciprocation from the deities. I'm feeling, genuinely feeling Krishna consciousness on this level. So why do I need, a little insignificant, hey, Prabhu, you're great. Oh, thank you. No, you made my day. I don't need that. I've got so much, it's so much greater what I'm getting. The level of bliss and ecstasy and satisfaction is incomparable to a little, hey, Prabhu, you're great. That was a great class. Oh, thank you. You made my day. If that's the level we're living on, it's, you could say it's pathetic, isn't it? In light of what Krishna consciousness is, and the ocean of, I need a little drop of appreciation. In light of the ocean that the holy name is full of, just appreciate the holy name and the fortune you have to have it, and you'll have all the appreciation you need. Okay, so that's easier said than done. That's a philosophical point. It's completely true. If we would just absorb ourselves more in Krishna consciousness, we would be more satisfied. If we're more satisfied, we depend less on other people to satisfy us. Yes? So my husband, my wife, my disciple, my guru, my friend, they're not, I have needs or expectations that I thought they were to fulfill, but for one reason or another, they can't fulfill them. But I'm fulfilled in Krishna consciousness, so I'm okay. That's the point. I'm okay in Krishna consciousness. The other day I was chanting my rounds. Somehow or other, I don't know what I did. I must have done something right. I was just feeling like I could do this all day, all night, for the rest of my life. It's kind of like maybe your favorite ice cream, when you take the first few bites and you kind of think, this is it. Like, if time stopped right now and I could just eat this ice cream forever, life would be good. I think I could do this forever. It was kind of one of those moments. I was just chanting Hare Krishna, and I was thinking, this is so nice. Like, I don't want to stop. I could just turn the lights out, turn the world off, and I could just do this forever. It's like, wow, what mercy. It was like chanting my rounds, 16, 20. I was just like, whatever. Numbers drifted off into space. I lost track. Just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This is like amazing. Yeah, just. In that position, if you've ever been there for one moment or 1 minute or whatever, or you've been somewhere in Krishna consciousness, where you have that experience, in those moments of experience, or you're hearing the Bhagavatam and you just you get some amazing realization, and it's like, wow, Krishna consciousness is amazing. In those moments, you don't expect anything, you're not hankering, you're just like right now, here, right now. It's just, like Dhruva Maharaj said, I don't want anything, na yache, I want nothing, I'm satisfied. Yes, you've been there, right? And so, compare that to, oh, you didn't smile when I saw you today. Oh, you ruined my day. I hate you. Like, what's that all about? That, so low self-esteem makes us act like little children, and, the way we interact. I don't like him, he didn't smile, Now you think I'm making this up? I'm not. This is like real world, this is like real world experience that I have, that people tell me these things, and they're telling me these things, and I'm thinking, how old are you? 5 or 6? I mean, these are adults telling me these things, and it's all a product of low self-esteem that's never been healed. And so we become very vulnerable, like children vulnerable. And yes, you will find this. People can storm out of the Hare Krishna movement because they weren't given enough recognition. What's that all about? In many cases, it's about low self-esteem. That they needed recognition to be normal. And it's not necessarily a spiritual problem. It could be a psychological problem, unfortunately. So that's why low self-esteem is it's so potentially damaging, because it causes needs that are unhealthy and difficult to fulfill. So Krishna consciousness could make up for a lot of that, but Krishna consciousness won't necessarily give you the self-love and the self-confidence that you need to fully overcome your low self-esteem unless you work on it, unless you recognize the problem, and unless you start just appreciating that you're a devotee and you've been engaged in devotional service and you're okay. There was a devotee, this is so funny. There's a devotee who wrote me. We have sadhana reports and devotees write me. So this devotee said, during Kartik every day I chanted 25 rounds, but a few days I only made it to 19 and I'm feeling like really worthless and useless and bad. He chanted 25 rounds every day, except for 3 he chanted 19, and he's feeling really bad because he didn't make his 25. Now you might say, well, it's good he feels bad because, he's serious. No, but he was feeling bad in like a useless way. I'm useless, I'm bad. And I'm looking at that thinking, you thought 19 is bad. Wait a minute. I said, turn it around and congratulate yourself. It's not bad, it's good. What you did is good. So you see how low self-esteem works? Even if you do something good, you see it's bad. Oh, I went to the Japa retreat, I was supposed to chant 64, I only chanted 63, something's wrong with me. Everybody did 64, I always knew something was wrong with me. Like that. And you think, yeah, he's exaggerating. No, I'm not exaggerating. People think that way. Yeah, there's something wrong with me. I could, somehow or other, Krishna must be punishing me. I couldn't get the 64 rounds done before their time allotment was up. I don't know what's wrong with me. I only got 63. I don't know, maybe Yamaraj is cursing me or something. You're never going to chant 64 in your life. Maybe I've done too many sinful things. Maybe Krishna wants to kick me out of ISKCON. You're thinking, no, devotees don't say that. Yes, they do say that. Not everybody, but certain devotees will say things like that. Believe it or not. So, self-love or self-satisfaction even means, yeah, okay, I didn't do 25, but I did 19, yes, and the other days I did 25, and that's good, and I'm a fallen, conditioned soul, and I was able to do 19. I'm proud of myself. I'm getting there. I'm working on it. You have to feel some sense of self-worth, self-confidence like that to continue in a healthy way in Krishna consciousness. And just Maybe you have fallen away from Krishna consciousness and you come back and then you think, well, at least I came back. I get 5 stars for coming back. You know? Like, yeah, so I blew it, but I'm back. And that's good. And I'm doing the process, and that's good. So you can think like that, rather than think, nah, I'm so bad, you know, Krishna should, you know, Krishna should throw me in an ocean of poison and drown me. I'm so bad for everything I've done. And even if I chant 16 rounds now, what's the use? Because I've done so many bad things, you know. That thinking doesn't help us. Neither it is validated by our philosophy. So that's how low self-esteem works in people. So to be able to appreciate yourself or love yourself, accept yourself, is extremely important in creating a foundation from which you can enthusiastically engage in devotional service. Okay, so you're not a pure devotee yet, but you're sincerely trying, so give yourself credit, right? Appreciate that. You know, okay, you know, you're doing your best. You're trying. Well, you know, when I think that I can do some level of devotional service day in and day out, I like to congratulate myself and say, yes, that's amazing. Now, I know it's Prabhupada's mercy, but I have to have some desire and some effort to keep it happening. So I think that's amazing. Coming from the conditioned state to the state of Krishna consciousness, being able to execute some sadhana, some semblance of sadhana, that's like, okay, give yourself a gold star. That's good. Because when you give yourself that gold star, you get encouraged. That's why teachers give students gold stars. Yeah, very good, you know. If you expect other people to say very good, they may not. They may say very bad. They may say, you've been a devotee for almost 50 years and you're only chanting 16 rounds. Very bad. You should be doing 64, at least. You have no taste. Something's wrong with you. Yeah, other people will say that. You don't have to say that to yourself because someone else is going to say it. So, you know, don't worry. You know, if you really feel a need to put yourself down, well, someone will do it for you. Don't worry. So, what we need to do is say, yeah, and I'm still chanting 16 and I'm going on. Despite my fallen condition, I'm still doing this. That's what we need to tell ourselves, because that's the platform from which we can enthusiastically engage in Krishna consciousness. Now, we have some comments or questions. Since I asked for them, from Poland, we have a question. I just had the situation of expectation with the person, which has brought me now 60 kgs to my block. 60 kgs of what? But brought me to my apartment, although it is not some, I think, potatoes. Remember that you have my apartment. Just remember that you have said that we haven't made the agreement between us, so why should we expect this to do it? Then just another person appeared, thanks to Krishna, and helped me. But the person was not obligated to do it for me. Thank you very much for the theme. Yeah, you know, it's nice when you don't expect it and people do it. And it's really not nice when you expect it and they don't do it. Now what about this? How about that I should expect to do for others what others expect of me? You know, another thing to think about is a lot of what we expect others to do for us, we don't even do for them. And we're expecting it from them. That's very interesting. He never does this. She never does that. Well, have you ever done that for him or them? Well, no, but, you know, they should be doing it for me because they're superior. Why? Why shouldn't you not be doing it for them? That's such an interesting thought. You know, whenever you're criticizing somebody, saying they never do this, never do that, just ask yourself, well, do you ever do that? I mean, maybe you do, but often you don't. And it's just a great realization to have that you don't do the very thing that you would like someone else to do. Yes? Hare Krishna. Okay. I have a desire to serve an important person for me. How I can serve him so that he will be happy. I don't know who he is and what he wants. Maybe you need to ask him, how can I serve you so you'll be happy? You know, sometimes you serve someone and they're not happy, even though you sincerely serve them, because you did something maybe they didn't need or want or was wrong. So just ask them, I want to serve you. How can I serve you? Like Prabhupada asked his spiritual master, how can I serve you? 60 pounds of potatoes, sorry. I just wanted to share this example. It's Krishna showing me right now. Okay. All right. Anything else? This, I think it might be advisable to listen to this class again, because it's got a lot of very important points. At least to show you how your low self-esteem can just create so many problems for you. Okay? So I think we will end, and then we will come tomorrow, same time, same place, same station. That's 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. That's 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. That's about 1:30 in England, I think. More or less. No, tomorrow is different. Tomorrow is daylight savings here. So now, I have to figure this one out. Tomorrow's daylight savings, if I, this was, it is going to be when I wake up at, tomorrow when I wake up at, the clock's going to go back. So it's going to be an hour later, as far as I know. Fall back, put the clock back. So tomorrow right now is going to be an hour earlier. So it means more or less we're going to be starting this time. Anyway, I don't know if Guru Nishta informed everybody, but it's daylight savings tomorrow, which means we put the clock back. So this means that the class will be an hour later, because this time we started 4:30 would be 5:30 would be 4:30 a.m. So anyway, you can check it the same time, and if I'm not there, it means an hour later, and Guru Nishta will figure it out. But anyway, for your record, we will start tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay? Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.